So far we have seen all these chains, right? So in the router chain, we have defined the logic manually and then routed accordingly, right? But now let's try to use LLMRouter chain, and the objective is based on the prompt or question that we provide, the LLM will be smart enough to route the question to the correct prompt and answer accordingly, right? So let's see how we can implement that by using LLMRouter chain. Okay, so let's go to VS Code and see the implementation part. So if you notice here with router chain, we have defined this routing logic manually, but now let's see LLMRouter chain. So let me try to create a new Python file and let's save this as LLMRouter Chain demo. And the first thing is we have to install the required packages, and the package is nothing but LangChain OpenAI. So make sure you install it if you haven't installed already. Okay. And the next thing is we have to load all the required modules. So here we are using OpenAI LLM. So that's why we are importing chat OpenAI from LangChain OpenAI. And the prompt that we'll be using is multi-prompt chain, which is from LangChain Chains router. And this is to load the environment variables from the environment file, right? So we can use load_.env to load the environment variables from the environment file. And once we load the file, let's read the key. And once we have the key, let's store that key inside OpenAI API key. Inside this environment variable, we stored our OpenAI LLM API key. So once we read the API key, the next thing is let's try to initialize the LLM by using this chat OpenAI, which is from LangChain OpenAI package, right? So once we initialized our LLM, for example, let's say you have different templates. One is beginner template, the other one is expert template, right? So let's define our templates. The first template is beginner template. You are a physics teacher who is really focused on beginners and explaining complex topics in simple to understand terms. You assume no prior knowledge. Here is the question and we will pass the question. Okay. So this is our beginner template. This is how we defined our template. Now let's define one other template. Let me close this so you can see better. Expert template. You are a world expert physics professor who explains physics topics to advanced audience members. You can assume anyone you answer has a PhD level understanding of physics. Here is the question and we will pass the question. This is a dynamic variable, right? So one is for beginners and the other one is for advanced audience members, and they are PhD level members, right? So we have defined one beginner template and the other one is expert template. Okay. And if you want, you can add your own templates as well, right? So let me define an empty template. Here you can fill in with your own template. So here I have created one for beginner and the other one for expert. Instead of these two, you can add your own templates as well. Okay. So once we have the templates ready, now let's define the prompts, right? So let's create a list of prompts. So what we are doing here, inside the list, we are defining 3 prompts. One is for empty prompt. Name is equal to empty and description is equal to replies to empty questions. For the prompt template attribute, we are passing the empty template. And the second one is for expert template, right? Name is equal to advanced physics. Description answers advanced physics questions. And the prompt template is expert template. Similarly for the beginner template. Name, beginner physics. Description answers basic beginner physics questions. Prompt template, whatever the prompt template we have created before for beginner template, we are assigning that to prompt template, right? So we have created a list of prompts. One is for empty template, the other one is for expert template, and the last one is for beginner template. Okay. Once we have all these prompts ready, we also have our LLM ready. Now let's try to bind them by using chain. Okay. So here we are using multi-prompt chain, which is from LangChain Chains router, right? To bind the LLM with the prompts. So let's try to create our routing chain call. By using multi-prompt chain, we have a function called from prompts. So we are passing our LLM, which we have initialized here, and also all the prompts. This is the list that we have created. We are passing that, and verbose is equal to true, right? Now, once we have the chain, inside chain we have a function called invoke, and to that, let's try to pass the question. How do magnets work? Explain, right? So inside the chain, we have function called invoke, and we are passing the question and are trying to print the answer, right? So one beginner question and one advanced level question, right? So we asked two questions here, and we did not define any logic where it has to route to the corresponding chain, right? Because in the router chain, if you see, we have defined the logic manually. So according to the category, you execute and give us the answer, right? Here we have defined the logic manually. But whereas with the LLM router chain, we are using multi-prompt chain and we are passing all the prompts. So the OpenAI LLM will be smart enough to understand this question and route to the corresponding prompt and give us the answer, right? So based on the question, it will route to the correct prompt and give us the answer. Okay, so that is the objective of using LLM router chain. So now let's try to run this code. So now you can see it understood how do magnets work explain as beginner physics question, and how do Feynman diagrams work, it understood as a advanced physics question, right? So for this question, it used beginner template prompt, right? And then it tried to give us the answer. So this is the question input and the answer is this. And the second question, the input is how do Feynman diagrams work, and it understood as advanced physics question. So this is the input and this is the answer, right? So what we understood here, we installed all the packages and we loaded the modules. And please note, we are using multi-prompt chain here, right? You can see the description here. A multi-route chain that uses an LLM router chain to choose amongst the prompts, right? So depending on the prompt, it will try to route, right? So here we are trying to load the environment variables. We read the key and we stored inside the API key, and then we initialized our OpenAI LLM, and here we created 3 templates. One is for the beginner template, expert template, and the empty template. Here you can define your own templates and replace here. So we have our templates. Next thing is we created a prompts list. The first one is for the empty template, and the second one is for the expert template, and the third one is for the beginner template. We created 3 prompts inside a list. And once we have the prompt list, we are using multi-prompt chain to bind the LLM prompts together, right? And inside the chain, we have the function called invoke. So you do not have to define the routing logic like how we did before manually, right? Based on the question, the LLM is smart enough to understand the context and route accordingly and then give us the answer, right? So nowhere we have defined the logic, but the LLM understood the context and it was able to give us the right answer by identifying the correct prompt, right? If it is beginner physics, then you use this template. If it is advanced physics, then you use this template, right? So it routed accordingly and then gave us the answer. Okay. So now you get the idea, right? So you can replace these questions with any other questions, or you can replace these templates, right? According to your business need, you can try to define these templates and route them accordingly. And based on the question, the LLM will try to route to the correct one and then give us the right answer, right? So that is the objective of using LLM router chain. All right. Thank you.